I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. Today on Leadovation, I'm joined by photographer turned entrepreneur Scott Proposki, who has photographed Michael Jackson, President Obama, Robin Williams, and Miley Cyrus, and built a multi-million-dollar photography business doing it. And then COVID hit, and the entire company disappeared overnight. Scott shares the hard lessons from losing everything, how he rebuilt his career, and the simple business insights like focusing on profit instead of just revenue that can change the trajectory of just about any small or mid-sized business. It's a powerful story about reinvention, focus, and turning adversity into a new vision. Scott, hey, it's so nice to have you on the show here. I was thinking about your big story that you're going to tell us here in a minute about your business in being a photographer, a very successful one. And I want to get to that. But before we get to that, I want to ask you a question first. And that is, what was it about photography in the beginning that captured your attention and your imagination? Why that?
My dad. My dad was a corporate photographer. My dad was a corporate photographer back in the 70s, a corporate photographer. My uncle Roger was a corporate photographer for AT&T. My dad was a photographer for Honeywell. Roger was a photographer for AT&T, and my cousin was the vice president of Polaroid.
Wow. So it was in your blood. It was in your DNA.
I just had to be doing what I'm doing, right? At that time, I don't think all of us really realized that we were in the photography industry. It's kind of interesting. It becomes the norm, right? I didn't know any different, right? That this is what we just did.
Well, I haven't read very many books on photography. I remember one in college. It was called On Photography. And one of the concepts that I remember was the sort of the characteristic of a person who is the photographer and the characteristics of a person who likes to be in the picture. And they were very different types of people, very different types of styles. I like to observe the world. I don't want to participate in it, you know? And it was a very kind of, that was a concept I remember thinking a lot about. But I love photography. I'm not a professional. I have a phone camera, and I'll notice something, and all of a sudden, maybe once in a while, I'll get something that's pretty good. But anyway, I wanted just to kind of set the stage in terms of like what caught your attention. It sounds like it was part of your family's lore, your DNA, what you guys just did.
It was meant to be, and that's what it is, which grew to something much bigger.
Let's get on to the story. Tell me about your background, where you worked. You've got a major pivot that happened. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. So, here's a kid with a camera, right? I'm in high school. I'm taking some pictures. Many photographers, I know they can relate to this. It's almost like identical, repeatable story. And the guidance counselor calls me into the office. And I'm like, oh God, what do I do now? And she sits me down and she says, Scott, for this school year, I'd like you to take photos of the whole school season. And at the end of the season, what we're going to do is we're going to have a slideshow, a multimedia show. Would you like to take the photos and let's put together this multimedia show? I'm like, I'm all in. That was my hall pass. I mean, that was it was like, what? So for the whole school season, I was able to use my camera as a hall pass, get anywhere, do anything. And we had amazing slide presentation at the end. It really affected me, and the music and what I did. And we had this great music with even like Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror, right? I just remember that soundtrack and doing that. Little did I ever know, 20 years later, I'd be photographing Michael Jackson.
You really photographed
Yeah. I was working for
Michael
Fox
Jackson.
News. I was with Fox News, and
Wow.
he was at an event in Chicago. And it brought me back to those high school days saying, hey, maybe this is the connection, right?
Huh.
And I just remembered that everything connects. So that day got me into just corporate. I never had any other job and got right into, believe it or not, National Geographic.
Wow. So what sort of gigs did you do with National Geographic?
Well, I was what they call the event photographer, right? It's maybe a term we kind of know right now, like the wedding photographer, right? The family photographer, right? The school photographer. It was fairly a new term back in 2001. And I was the event photographer. So I would be at events taking photographs of key players, the CEO, and different corporate events that they did. And so I was the event photography guy.
All right. So throw some names. You got Michael Jackson. That caught my attention. Who else do we all know that you were able to take pictures of?
Maybe, President Obama?
Oh, maybe.
Okay. How about Robin Williams?
Oh, I think we've heard of him too.
Miley Cyrus?
Okay. All right.
And her dad, Billy Ray?
Yeah.
And if you haven't figured out already, I'm from Boston with this accent. So the New England Patriots are a great client of mine still today.
So great, wonderful subjects. I mean, now I'm just sort of curious about that, and let's move on to your story, but in a second. But what was it like working with those types of very famous people? Were they gracious? Were they hard to deal with? Or were they all everything in between? I mean, what was it like having to go through that experience with an Obama, Miley Cyrus, what have you, Michael Jackson?
Yeah, no, extremely, very memorable. Okay, first off. And the stories for me, I remember stories. I don't know what it is about me, but I don't know what I had for dinner last night, but I can remember a story in great detail. And when I started to write my book, Camera Focus, out of my memory over 20 years, 2 decades-ish plus, I was able to think about the stories and the experiences that I had. And what I realized when I wrote the book, because it became the norm, traveling, doing what I was doing. It was only in 2019 when I wrote my book that I understood what I actually did, because I never told anybody. I'd come home and I'd be with Sylvester Stallone in LA, have to fly to New York City and had a photo shoot with Andy Cohen. Then I'd drive home from New York City to Boston. My wife would be leaving the driveway. I'd be driving in. She goes, hey, how was work? It's all right. It's okay.
Did being a photographer give you access to people that you normally would not have had access to? That's probably a rhetorical question, obviously, but
I learned that in high school. And I was camera focused, which is the title of my book. If I had a camera, I could do anything.
Wow. So I have a quick sidebar story, right?
Yeah.
So when I was in college, I think I was teaching college as part of my financial aid. And one of my students and we went to some place in Washington and we were swimming. We had one of those old video cameras that you almost put on your shoulders. This is a long time ago. Yeah. Camcorder, right? And we're in this hotel swimming pool area, and off to the right, there is a wedding party that is going through the reception line, and they're actually drinking and having a wonderful time. And there was a long glass window. You could see what was going on. And we're swimming around the pool, we're seeing all this stuff. So we think wait, we could probably get access to the point that you just made to this wedding. So what we did is we just got out, we put on a shirt, but we still had dripping, cut off jeans and flip flops. We walk into the wedding, we start videotaping people saying that we were with the other party. And nobody questioned us. We all of a sudden were videotaping. Well, tell me about the wedding. Tell me about the bride. Tell me, and nobody ever questioned whether or not we shouldn't be there. And of course we should. It's crazy. So anyway, back to your story.
Yeah,
so you had
totally
all these
relate
great
to that story. Totally relate.
What's that?
It happened to me. I can totally relate.
You've been in the
I walked into the White House without anybody
all right. So
going
tell
through
me.
security. without going through security.
Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, back up the bus, Chris. You're saying that you went into the White House without security just because you had a camera?
Well, kind of, sort of. We had to get to the White House for a photo shoot. It was early in the morning. It was like 5:36. And I just walked up to Secret Service like I knew him. Hey, what's going on? Hey, how's the dog?
Did you have any like a press badge on or anything?
No, just
really. So what
case
administration
camera.
Was this?
Obama.
Okay. So what happened then?
It was an oversight. It really was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And I've been back and forth a few times in all fairness. So, but nevertheless, we got in there and I was with somebody else. I just act like I own the place. Just walk in and be who you are. And I'm with somebody in Amber. She's actually walking in and she goes, they didn't check out bags. Scott, Secret Service, they didn't check out bags. Just go with it. And I'm smiling. Just go with it. Just keep going.
Did they ever catch on that you passed through security without them checking your badges?
I don't know. It was early and it's,
it sounds like not.
We just kind of went on.
All right.
So
now
we still joke about that story.
So now you've got this incredible business. You're photographing, world famous people. Tell us the next chapter.
Next chapter. Well, maybe some people have read the book E-Myth, right? E-Myth.
Oh yeah, the E-Myth. Yes, by Michael Gerber, I think it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great book.
And they talk about this woman who just loved baking and she baked blueberry muffins, right? It's part of the story. One of the stories.
Okay, I'll follow you.
And it's like, you should go into selling blueberries, have a, muffin store and have a bakery and you're great at it. And these are so good. And she opens up the bakery. She's making beautiful blueberry muffins. But after a time, when you're running the business and you're growing it, she's no longer making the blueberry muffins. She's running the business now.
Right.
And that ain't happening. And like me, I didn't take photos for maybe 10, 15 years.
Because you were running the business?
I was running the business.
Yeah.
And probably, I look back, it's 15 now, but pre-COVID 2017, when the business kind of took off, 2018, right? And that's when I met a coach who got me really dialed in. I mean, super dialed in. And we got into the first year and a half, hit 1 million in sales. And then, year 3, I was at 4.2 and signed contracts in business. Not that the numbers matter. It doesn't matter. It's just a number.
But it indicates growth. I mean, it's positive.
It's a way to keep score.
I got
That's what I call it. It's a way to keep score. And so I was running a business. And we were hiring photographers all around the country. And we would have photo shoots for an HBO and a 40-city tour and have to hire 40 photographers all around the country and train them and make sure that we had what we're, sold, what I sold, that we could duplicate 40 times all around the country. It was the opening for Games of Thrones. I don't know if you've heard of that before. Games of Thrones.
Yeah.
It was some of these things were before they got famous, right? It was a launch. It was a launch of Game. So it wasn't well known at the time. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So this is pre-COVID, right?
Yes.
All right. Then COVID hits.
COVID hits. Okay. 2019. Scott's writing the book, finished the book, Camera Focus. On tour, doing interviews, kind of like what I'm doing now. But looking for an investor, growing the business, trying to get signed contracts to get my valuation of the business up. That was the goal. That's where we get valuation, right? We did. Mission accomplished. One customer could have 10 locations worth a lot over a multi-year period, right?
Sure.
So we did it. So, okay, fine. Who can I collaborate with? I wasn't selling the business. Who could I collaborate with and grow, right? And so those conversations were happening, very happening, that it would have happened. And then the pandemic happened. Just about 6 years from right now, this moment, actually, as we're speaking.
It was March. Yes, it was March
20th,
when we shut down the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember being in my office. Like, I think it was 2020. I left my office. I remember very clearly. I think must have been March 17th or 18th. Okay. I'm in my office at the conference room. I'm writing my second book called Be Focused. Okay.
Hmm.
That's what I was going down this road because I was transitioned from photographer to running a business. And so back in 2020, I was already focused on being an advisor for businesses
Hmm.
because I didn't think I was going to be in the role as photographer anymore. What I was really now good at was helping people build businesses, have a system, learn what I just learned, grow a business from 100K to 4.2 million, right? But have the creative side as well, right?
Hmm.
So I'm not this analytical kind of guy doing all the, with numbers, but I get photographers. I get them. I've hired hundreds of them around the country. So that I was moving towards business. Anyways, long story short, I'm in my office and I remember talking to Amanda. I said, you know what? I think this is going to be a global pandemic that's going on. And everybody in the room said, a what? I said, a global pandemic. And And I said, I think I'm going to write this in my book. It's going to be a big part of my book because of viruses. It was a virus, COVID-19. It was a virus that could take out the world and take out companies and take out businesses, right? At the time, I was a beekeeper. That was my hobby, to do bees. And at that moment, I realized this story, like the bees are dying off. You don't have to be a scientist or be into bees, but you probably heard that story before. The honeybees, they're dying off, right? We have to protect the honeybees. We need honeybees to pollinate all sorts of things. Well, anyways, why we leave science class here, and it's very, very relevant even still today. So being a beekeeper, what you need to do is make sure the bees survive, right? And they don't get
Right.
any viruses because viruses will take out the hive. So
Right.
that's when I put this metaphor together. I'm like, well, if you have a good beekeeper watching over the hives and they don't get viruses, together as a community, they're going to build a bigger hive and get honey. That's how
Sure.
it works. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so here we are, COVID-19. Well, beekeeper, if you have a good business coach overseeing the business, making sure that this virus doesn't take out your company like it would with bees, right? That if we could work together, like a colony of bees, we can make some money, just like the bees make some honey,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the whole metaphor was around this honeybee concept, right? And so I said, this is what I'm going to go with. The book's going to be about this. And they said, you're crazy. And I wrote it.
So then what happened to your business during COVID or just after?
Well, it, it like dropped to zero,
Hmm.
like overnight, nothing.
Yeah. So all your contracts pretty much dried up.
Never happened.
Investors said there's nothing to invest in. Yeah. So
I left my,
you went from 4.5 million or 5 million in sales, top of the world, riches to rags story in a sense, pretty
driving the
quickly because of
BMW,
COVID. Yeah.
driving the BMW, doing the thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Living the
Totally. And
dream.
I'm sure there's
Yep.
people who are listening to this can relate to that story. I mean, we had not necessarily that level of disruption, but it was scary. I remember phone calls with
Mm-hmm.
CEOs going like, I wonder if this is going to be when he or she's going to tell me that they're cutting us. And, one did, but the rest of them kept us and we just moved everything to Zoom, but you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do that. Right. So now it sounds like you had the
Mm-hmm.
kernel for the next business in the book that you were writing during COVID. So talk about this model that you created that in
Right.
a sense, COVID in some ways helped push you towards.
It's my story that actually built my career today. 2020, I knew. I packed up my computer, my stuff, my desk, and brought it to the shipping dock at the office. And people were, seeing me pack up my truck, and they're like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Well, I think we're going to be not in the office for a very long time. There's going to be a global pandemic, and this is what's going to happen." And da 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 da. Like, what are you crazy? Really? You think so? I'm like, yeah. Take care. And I left the
It's
office
funny.
and didn't go back for 3 years.
Wow. So sidebar to this, it's interesting that you could identify that trend before it became known by everybody. That's a
Yeah,
little
I'm
bit
like,
of intuition there or something going on there, my friend, because I remember a lot of people, the major news outlets and so forth, were saying, yeah, we know something's happening, but nobody saw it the way you did at that time. They just knew something was happening. You
yeah,
said, this is going to turn into something much worse. And you were right.
yeah, I knew.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be at a conference in Boston at the Marriott, March 5th, 10th, something like that.
Mm,
And people were like, there was conversations about the virus, people sick, and there was something going on. And
right.
I call, I'm like, hey, is this conference still on? Oh yeah, absolutely, Scott, absolutely. I'm
Mm,
like, you sure about that? The
mm,
next day they did end up canceling the event in Boston, but I
wow.
was so tuned into it because if you go back to the stories, a lot of it goes back to Boston as one of the first detected cases was at the
Yes.
Boston Marriott Long Wharf Hotel when they had a
Oh,
conference, right?
I think
Remember
I've
a
been
little bit
there.
of that story, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was a pharmaceutical company that
Uh-huh.
came in overseas and stayed in Boston at the Boston Marriott,
Uh,
and they identified that group of people brought not the whole world here, okay, but they just identified that cell, what they call them cells, right, was the
mm-hmm.
and so I was kind of already into that news because that's exactly where I was supposed to be going to,
Wow. So you were really
and
on
I
front
was
lines
ground
in some
zero.
ways.
I
Ground
was in the
zero.
ground zero. So
Wow. All right. So, Scott, now, what did you learn and what is the model that came from all of this tragedy?
yeah, well, at the time you didn't know. It was like a
Right.
slow
But
death. It was a
yeah,
slow
it
death.
does. Sure. So,
um,
but there was a phoenix that came out of the ashes here. Talk about that.
yeah. Oh, well, that's my, yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm here, thankfully. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, 3 years was really difficult. You know, turned in the BMW, got rid of all my stuff.
Yeah.
We got to tighten down here.
Right.
And, then you just fall into a really deep depression.
Mm,
You go from flying every day and the book tours and doing all this stuff and the big vision, right? Big vision
mm,
to isolation. And I didn't realize at the time how much that would affect me. And I think a lot of CEOs, big firms will say that it really affected them. And we lost our vision, the big picture. And I lost my vision. I didn't know it at the time. I just didn't know where to look.
yeah.
I couldn't think. So for 3 years, I didn't think, literally, right? Went up to Maine and just took off.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until about maybe 4 years after the pandemic, believe it or not, that I started to come around and come out of my house and take a shower. Right?
So we're talking literally, if that was 4 years, we're talking 2 to 3 years ago.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Okay.
really only come out of this about 2 years ago. I'm still in build up
Okay.
mode. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was significant for me. Very
Yeah.
significant.
Yeah.
And
Can I ask you, Scott?
yeah.
Thank you for sharing this. By the way, that's tough. Um, you really are. You hit rock bottom. I mean, this could be something that others who are listening to this could find a bit interest because there are times when we all hit rock bottom. What was a lesson learned for you about yourself going through that difficult time? Not
Yeah.
maybe at the time, you may not have known it, but when you came out of
Right.
it and you're looking back and you go like, that sucked,
Yeah.
but I learned this. What did you learn?
What I learned was, I know we were isolated. I get that. And the world changed. But what I did is it disappeared and I didn't talk to anybody. I
Hmm.
listened to a lot of podcasts. I listened to people that now I actually talk to in real life. um, I just didn't talk to anybody and just lost touch with reality.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't care. Didn't check my mail. Didn't check my bills. Just checked out.
Hmm.
And if I had to do it over again, Talk to somebody.
Talk to somebody, meaning don't get
have a
so
meaningful
isolated.
conversation. Yeah, have a meaningful conversation. What's going on? Yeah, I had a psychologist and therapy over Zoom and so forth and so on. But
Sure.
big picture, CEO, big business, I relate. Gets me excited, right?
Yeah.
That's what gets me excited, and I was able, it was really to speak to somebody, talk to somebody, because what I did learn was the day that a switch went off, and I had a call with my coach. I got back on communicating, and I was in a little bit of a rant, kind of, which I'm not usually that guy, kind of like it was kind of going off on everything that day. And that particular subject I was kind of going off on was I was watching YouTube videos and Instagram videos, and people were claiming to be photographers, and I'm sure they were. Don't misunderstand my words. But they were coaches. And hey, if you want to get big business, I'll show you how I did it. I've done over 50 weddings. What? I did like 500. I did 1,000. I don't even know how many I did. Right? So like weddings. What? I mean, I was the top 1% of event photographers in the country. Right? And I'm like, how can you did 50 weddings? You're an expert. Right? I'm just going on. I'm sorry. I mean, see, I'm getting into that.
So you were having your bitch session.
I was having a moment.
Yeah.
And you could see it coming out right now. And it really caught me. And my coach said this to me. Why don't you do something about it, Scott? That's fair.
So that was the aha moment?
That was the aha moment. I said, you're right. And so I now had a vision. I was running a business. I was hiring photographers to grow this business. If I could put a system into place and I could scale it, right? I needed something that I could repeat and have a team, train them, get them going, get them motivated, get the right people in, run a business, right? It's business 101, right? Yeah. And that's what I was really good at. So I said, I now have a bigger vision where I don't have to do it for my own business. I can go out to reach to photographers and help them run a business that can last a lifetime, that you can prepare for a pandemic. You can prepare for the Great Depression. You can prepare for some of these things. Don't do what I did, do what I say, sort of thing. And yeah, and so that's when my aha moment happened, where there's so many photographers, and I was hearing these stories of COVID, and they still today, some people didn't come out of it, really seriously. And so now I was really trying to emotionally help a lot of different photographers with their business that just never came back. And this is where I kind of transitioned to helping businesses itself focus on profits, because I had so many losses, right? That if I could focus on the profits, we're all looking for revenue generate, getting leads and getting customers and funnels and getting, what about the cash in your business that's probably going out the door that you don't even know it? You don't even know it.
So I love that. Was there something about that perspective around focusing on cash and profit that you told yourself, I wish I had learned this before the COVID pandemic? Yeah. I mean, maybe my fall from this high place wouldn't have been as dramatic. I'm only putting words in your mouth, my friend. I don't know whether this is true.
Did you read it sounds like you read my book.
Well, I'm just, you're point on. You are the book, textbook. So I'm just asking the question.
No, you're right on, Dean. You're exactly right. It's textbook 101. Exactly. Okay. I saw this, what went, 3-4 years, what went wrong? What went wrong, Scott? To myself, self-talk, right? Yeah. Obviously you need cash to run a business, but like, where did all this money go? Right?
So I want to pull this little string for a second, because COVID was a huge disruptor, one of the biggest situations that ever happened in the last 100 years, right? But what you're saying is pay attention to profit, pay attention to costs, and, make your business scalable using the principles that you had mentioned before from the E-Myth book, which is a great book, by the way. I would definitely, for those people who haven't read it, read it. It's really good. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to get value out of that book. But even today, I'm looking at the stock market. This is the 12th of March, 2026, right? There's a lot going on in the world. The stock market's been
Mhm.
up and down. Now it's been down for several days. We've got this whole situation going on,
Mhm.
with the war in the Middle East and so forth. There are going to be bumps, maybe
Mhm.
not as big as COVID, or maybe as big as COVID,
Who knows?
that we need to be able to have a cushion, and that focus on cash, focus on profit, I think is what you're saying is one way to get through that. Not just having a successful business, but it's also creating a safer one.
Yeah, even small businesses that are struggling, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll go into a business and ask something called a Jumpstart 12 that you can go into 12 different segments of your business and we can analyze it, right? And what it is, cost cutting, right? If we can in your business take a look at cost cutting, just take 1.5, 2% difference. Just
Goes right to the
2%
bottom line,
and cut,
baby.
right?
Yeah.
Now
Right.
that's one segment. Now let's talk about having a market dominant position of your business. Market dominant position of your business. Something so unique and different. What's your voice? What's your brand?
Mm.
Will that increase your business just like 2% over the course of a year to track numbers? Most probably.
Hmm.
Which even if you're doing 100 grand a year, that's 2 grand. Now I just came up with 4,000. Okay.
Yeah.
That's two little things. 1.2%.
Yeah.
That if we make these adjustments in 40 points in your business, depending on a $1 million business, I worked with $100 million business, made one change, it made them $1 million.
Right. And so here's a question that I'm sure some people are thinking about. They can look at their balance sheets. They can look at their P&L statements. You could say, let's take Scott's idea and see where we can make some cuts, because that goes right to the bottom line, goes to the profit line. All right. There's also another thing we hear is that you can't cut your way to success. You still need a top line revenue, right? I agree with that. But how can you help people sort of distinguish, is this a necessary expense or is this one that we could live without? And there's some emotional connection to some of the stuff, because these are vendors, these are people
Yeah.
these are employees, these are sacred projects that maybe
Yeah.
never came to
No.
fruition, and we got to cut them and they haven't even
Mm-hmm.
seen the light of day yet. This is hard. What's your
2%.
thoughts on that?
2%. Not half the
2%.
not half the workforce, right?
You're saying just
2%.
cut 2%.
2%.
Because you have the perspective that there is 2% to cut.
2%, 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%. Adds
Okay.
up.
It
Those
does
small
add up.
things add up to profit. Yeah, 40. Now let's analyze 40 different key factors in your business. Do you have a proper funnel? Do you have a funnel for your business?
Hmm.
Will that generate 2% more business? Probably.
Right.
Do you have an email campaign that goes out? Will that generate 2% more business? I currently have a daily focus email that I send out every day in real time. I write it every day, real time, not a scripted thing that goes out. But that's my thing. A focused daily email, right? That's what I do. Do you have an email list? Are you working on that list? Do you even have a CRM? Are you keeping
Right.
track of it? Do you know businesses that are doing, $500,000 that have no CRM? Imagine if we just organize that. We're talking like 30% profit is going out the door just because properly using a CRM, CRM, customer relationship management system, right? CRM. And they were in business for so long and the business just took off like me. I did that. Did I ever expect to run a photography business with HBO, National Geographic, Microsoft, Google, and have all these accounts? No, it blew up and I wasn't ready for it.
So given where we are today in the way we are in the world, I guess, what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that medium-sized businesses make from your own experience, your own observation?
Hmm.
And what should they be doing um, to remedy that?
I think we focus on well, first off, we focus on the wrong things. We focus on too many things. I know, I've been there, right? If we just focus on one core thing, like really like own it. I'm talking deep work, be an expert. Don't dabble. When I did photography, I didn't dabble. I was all in. National Geo, yeah, okay, HBO, yeah, sure. I didn't dabble. I was all in. How can you get even deeper, deep work, get really deep into it? That's just my thing, right? Get into deep
So
work.
before you go further about that, Scott, you're saying, say, focused on one or two things that your business does as a service or a product. It almost sounds like you're saying is be careful around the idea of adding more service lines because they can be very costly and can weigh you down. Are you making that comment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it's not even, it's the time wasted. Lost opportunity is a big number.
Yeah.
Lost opportunity.
Yeah.
And, we don't, if you don't have the budgets and the dollar amounts and you're running a small business, lost opportunity is pretty big.
Yes, it sure
And
is.
so, hey, well, here's what happens, Dean, right? You could probably relate to this as I talk to for the people listening. Okay. And if I could have, it's a great story. And I think the visual really will help a lot of people. Okay. So you have this great idea. You're flying high. We're entrepreneurs. This is great. It's going to, I got it. I got to figure it out. You're on top of that hill. You're on the high. It's awesome. So then you start working on it and you start going down the hill, going down the hill. It's getting a little difficult going down the hill. And then you get down to the bottom of the hill. You're like, this isn't for me. I'm out. Okay. Then you go back all the way to the top again, go to the start again. Oh, I got a great idea. And then you go down the slope and you go back again. And you continue this. You see a pattern in your history of trying things and they're not working them out. And you're just wasting this time going up and down, going back to the start position versus being down in that valley about what if we focus? Let's go deeper and get back up the hill, get to the summit. We know we want to get to the summit of Mount Everest. We know where we want to go. It's not just imaginary spots like the horizon. We know we need to get up to the summit of Mount Everest. So we're down in the valley here. We're down at base camp. If we get the right team members in base camp, somebody that knows the map, somebody that knows safety, ropes, everybody has a unique job at base camp. And you put that team together, you can get to the summit with the right team. Maybe you're at base camp right now. And maybe you just need to find the right team members so you can summit to get to the top of Mount Everest instead of ending it, quitting it, and going back on top of the hill again.
I totally think that's great. I think it's somebody had this idea called the dip. Seth Godin maybe is the name of the guy.
Peaks and valleys.
Peaks and valleys. We often give up when things start getting tough and then we start over again. Instead of the analogy of going up, it's, you got to get through the dip to be able to get to the other side. There's also another concept that sometimes is we got to cut bait. Sometimes when it's not working, it's not working. Let's stop keeping this sacred cow alive. Sorry for the analogy there, but you get the point. We've been trying to make this happen for 5 years. We're still losing money. Or this person on my team, we have done everything possible to be able to coach and mentor and give them expectations and training and all that other stuff. It's still not working. Now the problem is us because we haven't cut the ties.
Yeah. And usually when I see somebody like that, they probably should have cut it 10 years ago.
100%, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back to what this
you walk right in,
podcast,
right away.
Yeah, you do that. I tell people, like, when did you know this person was the wrong
10 years
person?
ago.
It's usually like a long time ago. It's like, why didn't you follow that intuition then?
Change. Afraid.
Afraid, fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they're finally talking to somebody now. Tell them when they get to us, now they're having a conversation. Gosh, I wish you would have found me 10 years ago. Well, I don't know if I was the right person 10 years ago, but, that person reached out to you and they started a conversation with you. They started to realize that I have a situation. I need to talk to somebody. I'm having a heart attack. Go to a cardiologist. Don't go to a generalist doctor. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you were. And he knew we had a problem in that particular point. And those are the people that can help him. Talking to his friends and his wife, husband, they all love you. They want to just say, oh, it'll be good, pat you on the back, right?
Yeah.
You need to have somebody that actually can see this and we don't judge, of course.
Right.
But let's have a conversation here, because when I'm with my coach, I could have it could be like 30 minutes. In that 30 minutes, I could have 2 nuggets. I could change my world,
Agreed.
but I'm open to it.
Yeah.
The thing is, but I pay him very well, right? So it's like, if you pay attention.
So true.
Right?
That's really good. So you had this really interesting career. You built up this great business from a numbers perspective. You had some huge lessons learned as a result of the pandemic and getting to the dip, if you will. And now you're on to another mountain. Could you speak a little bit to the kinds of clients you're working with, whether they be, photographers helping them grow their business or other small to medium sized businesses needing some assistance?
Yeah, there's one story that comes to my mind. He just had a vision. He had a vision of a daycare for dogs. Okay,
Hmm.
and I could see, and he was jumping up and down about this idea, and he had an existing one, but his idea was 10 times bigger than most people conversations, and he had it dialed in. And every Thursday we'd meet, have a drink with him. Scott, can you meet me on Thursday? Okay, go to the bar, have a drink. And I said, well, what's the problem? He goes, I need money. Okay, what's your thoughts? And he's thinking big, like multiple franchises. And
Hmm.
okay, I'm in. What do we got to do? So I said, well, we got to find somebody, right? So we're just having conversations. I'm like, okay, what we need to do is find somebody that has most, like, in this, where we live, East Coast of North America. Who would this person be? Let's pick the avatar. Like, just small businesses. Who's your customer? Who's your avatar? Who are you trying to reach? Well, he was doing the same thing. He didn't have a business up and running, but he needed to find his avatar, the investor, that person that could buy into this idea and bring it into a franchise and bring it to where he wants to go. So I said, okay, let's build that avatar, right? Who is he? What is he doing? And we literally play these role plays with them. And without giving out too much information, he found one of the very, very well known founders of a very, very big company that sold out. It happens
Hmm.
to live here in New Hampshire, and like is and now this idea is actually in the works,
Hmm.
and it's happening. And I met with him a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, Scotty. It was the early days. I didn't know where he was going with it. He goes, I would have paid you 10 times more than what I paid you.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but that's not the point. We got you to think about who was your customer is one person. Who was that person? And he was a visionary. And it was really, really interesting to see this evolution go through. Right. And, but to me, it was like, just like having conversations. Who's your customer? Who are they? Are they male, female? Where do they
Hmm.
shop? What do they do? What's their names? I go silly crazy in that.
Yeah.
Because once that person walks through the door and I meet them, it's almost like deja vu to me, because I know I can help that person.
It's a
I
really
know.
interesting idea that I mean, I think we lose track of what you just said. One is obviously having a big, bold vision. I think that came through loud and clear in that story. But another one was about the thing that you are passionate about might be different than what people need. How do you connect the dots between what I want to do and
Mhm,
what they need? And you just explained that by bridging the gap between this idea and the people that would actually use it. Once
mhm.
that got figured out, then you have something.
Got that vision. Same thing
Yeah.
happened to me with my coach. Hey, you're really good at photography. You wrote a book called Camera Focus. Let's start with that. Let's help photographers build a business.
Mm.
Oh, wow. Brilliant, right?
But
Um,
to
you
your
know,
point, though, you are working now with other people other than photographers.
yeah, exactly. But, having the book, I was lost, frustrated, right? What do you start with,
Yeah.
right? Let's hone in,
You started
right?
with one area, but now you branched to now you're working with small
Yeah.
businesses to helping them grow their
Mhm.
business as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was doing that for years, even like just running the bit, like CEOs right now. I talk to a lot of different CEOs. They're helping mentoring people off to the side all the time. That's what great people do. And
Hmm.
I mean, I've helped other people that, I have, I started to help him out with his business, his YouTube channel.
Hmm.
And we go to New York City, and he goes, Scott, hey, can you drop me off at Google? I want to have lunch with me. And we were doing a photo shoot. brought him along for the ride, and we talked business. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he goes in, I pick him up. And he goes, Scott, you're not going to believe this conversation I just had with Google. He goes, they're going to do something with YouTube, and they're going to actually pay me if I can run videos, and they can go viral, I think he said. I said, well, that's awesome. Okay, what are we going to do? And he was into fitness. Okay, he was into fitness, and he was all into fitness. And he was helping me doing a photo shoot. Again, he lined himself up with somebody that he could talk to, right? I said, yeah, come along for the ride. I had a photo shoot. Men's Health magazine happened to be one of my clients at the time. I said, Scotty, his name was Scott too. I said, Scotty, come along. Well, I'm doing it's Men's Health magazine, and Scotty is like ripped. He is ripped. And part of the event was the best male abs. It was a competition going on. Well, we had there was a rainy storm, like a terrible rainstorm in New York City, and nobody showed up at the event. And so I'm turning to Scotty. I'm like, do you think I should go to the client, let him know that we might have a contestant right here? He goes, you think? I said, yeah, let's do that. So she came over, he lifted up his shirt. He goes, could I jump in? And she goes, wow. Yes. Well, he ended up on the cover.
Oh, really?
He ended up on MTV with the reality show, Real World. Okay. Got his exposure. Today, he'll do a video on fitness. Still does it today. His name's Scotty Herman. And he'll get millions, 14 million hits on one video on his fitness. And we still communicate, talk, pick up the phone anytime. We're talking 14 million every time he does a video. Scotty Herman, look him up. And so he started off, I met him at a gym, and he goes, hey, what do you do? I'm a photographer. Maybe can we hang out? Sure. And this is where he's at, and it was, I painted I was painting the vision for him, not knowingly, kind of, right? That he just saw it. And it just, I always say, there's another, I come up with these little one-liners sometimes that are really good, right? If you pay attention, or when the student's ready, the teacher appears.
Right. So Scott, where do you see yourself in, say, 5 or 10 years? What's your vision?
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. It's interesting because just the other day, when I was telling somebody this story. When I was in coach with Dan Sullivan many years ago, we had a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and a 25-year plan. And that was part of the strategy, our quarterly strategy coaching session was plan out your 5, 10, and 25-year plan. So I kind of had a plan. That's all we did that one day. So we did it. We got it done. And I really got into it. I had my 25-year plan, what I was going to do. I said, and by the way, that would have been 10 years ago. So I'm only, no, that was like 15 now. So I'm 15 years into it. So it's another 10 years before I actually hit that 25-year goal, at that time, right? So at the time I said, I'm going to have 3 books. I had nothing. Lucky you could even write a sentence. Never mind, write 3 books. Okay. And I'm probably going to have some gray, white hair, which I do now. And I'll probably do some consultants. I want to stay in the business. I'm going to be consultant with business owners. I called it a consultant advisor at that time. I wrote it down. And honestly, I'm doing what I said I was going to do 10 years ago, just almost 10 years sooner than I actually thought I would.
So it worked.
Yeah, I'm doing it, right? But I'm actually doing it sooner.
Yeah, that's great. There is something so powerful about writing down your goals. So Scott, this has been a great story, my friend. I really enjoyed it. Could you tell people again, if they wanted to know more about you, your work, your books, your podcast, the programs, to give them some information in that area?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, anybody listening to the show right now, if you go to businessfocusmethod.com, you book a call with me. I'll do a free call with you, and I'll analyze 2 or 3 things in your business. And I can almost guarantee you, I will find $25,000 in your business in that conversation. And just book the call. We'll have that conversation.
Great offer.
Okay?
That's great. That sounds good. So you do have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Yeah, it's season 2. We're coming up with it. It's
Yes.
called the 3 O'Clock Coffee Podcast. 3 O'Clock Coffee Podcast. And I talk to extraordinary business owners around wherever I can get a hold of.
That's great.
And I got some really great people on the show already. People that were in Shark Tank and had this really cool business, and
great.
Just interesting stories.
So let me finish this little interview with a question. Let's assume that somebody called you up and they said, "Hey, we're from TED, the big TED, not the TEDx, but the big TED, right? It started in California." Yeah.
You know TED.
TED says, "Hey, we want you to."
He's my coach, by the way.
You've had a great background. You've got a lot of great stories, but we would like to offer you a slot on TED. What would your topic be, or what would your title be?
Yeah, once again, when I was writing my book, Refocus, one of my writers and proofreaders, kind of mentor, get my book going, said, "Scott, picture you on stage doing a TED Talk. This is how we're going to start off the book. And you're going to be on stage." And this is what she said. She said, "You're going to have this old camera kind of on this wooden tripod stand in the background. And you're going to have this conversation about a metaphor around a camera. And that's going to be your conversation, using metaphors at different parts of the camera." I'm like, "Oh, I love it." Well, guess what? That was Refocus. My book was all about metaphors and having different, metaphors around a camera, right? And that would be my vision, is to have a TED Talk, camera focused. Camera's like my superpower. A guy with ADHD, right? Superpower. My camera was everything. And it got me to a bigger vision than I ever imagined. And it got me out of really tough time in my life. And that tough time actually advanced my career to where I am today 100 times faster.
Yeah.
Because I actually lived it from zero to down. I lived it. And it's so fresh in my mind.
So should you actually want to do this, I would hope that you attract that in your life, and that I would love to see you on a TED stage sometime doing a talk with that title. That would be great. Maybe this be the moment in your life that you said, "This is where it's," well, not the word started, but it took another
What
leap.
Inspired me, right? Scott, what inspired you to do a TED Talk? Well, I was talking to Dean, and we were on a podcast one day.
That's great.
And I'll have that same story. I'm like, it was a great podcast. And just before the end of the podcast, Dean asked me this one question, what would you do on a TED Talk? What would the topic be? And so you just inspired me to actually thought of it in the past, right?
All right. So when you get the gig, send me a text, and I will certainly either try to attend it or certainly find it on YouTube.
Okay. And we'll come back and do this podcast.
That'd be great. Thank you, my friend. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for the stories. If you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review our show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps more people discover Leadervation and this kind of conversation. And if you're looking to strengthen leadership, culture, or team performance in your organization, you can learn more about working with me and Mission Facilitators International at mfileadership.com.